Hello students, here we are with distance time graphs today. So let us see, here I have written one question, distance time graph. I have drawn a graph and the questions which are frequently asked for distance time graphs. Okay, so let us try to solve it and see how we study the distance time graph. So in distance time graphs, as you can see here on x-axis, time is plotted in hours. Okay, time is plotted in hours. Then on y-axis, distance is plotted in kilometers. It can be time in seconds and distance in meters also. So we have to see properly the units also, and we have to mention that what we are plotting on time axis. Here the graph is already plotted, so we have to read the graph and then accordingly answer the questions which are being asked. Okay, so here time is plotted in hours, distance is plotted in kilometers. Now here 1 centimeter is taken as 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, 5 hour. So the gap is 1 hour each. And here 1 centimeter is equal to 500 kilometers in your graph paper, right? So 1 centimeter is 500, and here see this 500 is divided into 5 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. It means what? It means that one part is equal to 100 kilometers. Means if you have to see just here, so this would be 100 kilometers. Okay, so same way you can see 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1000. That way we will read the y-axis. Okay, now this is how we read it. Now you see there are 1, 2, 3 and 4 sections of the graph. Correct? There are 4 sections of the graph. In the first section we are starting at 0 time, and after 1 hour the object or the aeroplane, this is the graph for the journey covered by an aeroplane, because distances are in kilometers. Okay, so in 1 hour 500 kilometer aeroplane can only take us. So in 1 hour aeroplane has covered how much distance? Aeroplane has covered 500 kilometer distance, right? This is the distance covered by aeroplane in 1 hour. Okay, then in 2 hours, if you want to find out, then what we can do is we can simply drop a perpendicular here and then a horizontal also. So this way, so you can find out like at after 2 hours how much distance is traveled. So it would be 1100, 1200 and say roughly 1300 kilometers. Then at after 3 hours the aeroplane has covered how much? Aeroplane has covered 2100. Aeroplane has covered 2100 kilometer distance after 3 hours. Then you can say after 4 hours the aeroplane has covered 2600 kilometer distance. Okay, and then after 5 hours the aeroplane is still here only. Okay, cleaning is being done, so aeroplane is still here only at 2600 kilometer distance. What does it mean? That the aeroplane is at rest, it is not flying. Okay, here it has covered 500 kilometer in first hour, then in 2 hours it has covered 1300 kilometers, in 3 hours it has covered 2100 kilometers, in 4 hours it has covered 2600 kilometers, and at 5 hours, after 5 hours also it has covered 2600 kilometer only. In last hour it is not traveling. Now this is how we read it. Now let us see the questions being asked. Question number 1 is, how long was the flight? How long was the flight? So flight was how long? It was like up to 4 hours we are traveling 2600 kilometer, right? That was the flight. Because 4 to 5 our flight is at rest. It is not flying. So how long was the flight? So answer to our question 1 would be what? Our flight was of 4 hours. Okay? Flight was of 4 hours. Now, the second question is what? What was the speed of aeroplane during the first 2 hours of the journey? First 2 hours of the journey. Now here, speed is what? Speed is what? What is the speed? It is distance divided by time. Correct. Distance divided by time is the speed. Okay. So in first 2 hours of the journey, how much distance is covered? In first 2 hours. So here you see. See, I have not drawn it up to scale. I have not used this thing. So I think it is 1200. Yeah. Yes. So it is 1200 kilometer distance has been covered in first 2 hours of the journey. This is our first 2 hours. So in first 2 hours, how much distance is covered? 1200 kilometer distance is covered. So our speed would be what? Speed would be distance covered is 1200 kilometers and time is 2 hours. So the speed of the aeroplane would be what? It would be 600 kilometers per hour. So during the first 2 hours of the journey of the flight, aeroplane is flying at the speed of 600 kilometers per hour. Now let us come to the next part. Next is what? What was the speed of aeroplane during the next 2 hours of the journey? Next 2 hours means what? Next 2 hours means these, right? That is 2 to 4. Okay. So at 2, after 2 hours, aeroplane was at 1200 kilometer distance. And then at 4 hours, aeroplane is at, see this is one only, so aeroplane is at 2600 kilometer distance. Correct? So how much distance is covered in these 2 hours? That is 2600 minus 1200. Correct? So here we will be writing answer 3. The speed would be what? Speed would be, you can say 26, distance is what? Distance is 2600 minus 1200 kilometer distance. And time is, next 2 hours is, that is from 2 to 4. That is 4 minus 2 hours. Right? So that is what? So it is 2600 minus 1200 is what? 6 minus 2 is 4 and 1. And here 4 minus 2 is 2. So in next 2 hours, the speed is 700 kilometers per hour. Right? As you can see, the inclination is also more. Okay? Okay, let's not get confused about the inclination. We will talk about this later. So right now, you can see just like this is much more vertical, right? So that's why the aeroplane is now traveling little faster. Now what is question number 4? What was the average speed for the entire flight time? Do not include the time when the aeroplane had stopped. Okay, so we have not to include the time when aeroplane had stopped. Keep that in mind. It means that aeroplane had stopped in this time period, right? From 4 to 5, last 1 hour aeroplane had stopped. So average speed we need to find out. Average speed is what? Average speed is equal to total distance covered divided by total time taken to cover that distance. Okay, total distance covered divided by total time taken to cover that distance. So average speed would be what for us? It would be, what is the total distance covered? Total distance covered is 2600 kilometers, right? And total time taken is 4 hours. Remember, do not include the time when aeroplane had stopped. So total time is 4 hours. So just divide 2600 kilometers by 4 hours. What would be our speed? It would be like 4 sixes are 24, then here 2 carried over, so 20, so it would be 4 fives 20 and 0, so 650 kilometer per hour. On an average, our flight was flying at the speed of 650 kilometers per hour. Got it? So this way we will be reading a distance time graph and we can answer the questions. So for finding average speed, we will find the total distance and total time and then divide total distance by total time. And for speed, you will do simply distance divided by time. Remember that. And when the graph is simply parallel to the x-axis, it means that the object is at rest. It is not moving. Okay? Remember all those things. Okay? Hope you understood how to read the distance time graph. In next video, I will be coming up with how to read speed time graph. Okay? All the best. Keep practicing.